Assalamu alaikum. This is a very brief and beneficial lecture about Islam and slavery. Some people ask this question: if Islam considers freedom, why it allowed slavery? Now, there are things that have been considered before Islam as matters of trade, which is not easy to get rid of quickly. It has to be taken gradually. So let's see how Islam dealt with this issue. Number one, do you know that the last word of the Prophet on his last breathing was the following: As-salah, 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 ittaqu Allah fima malakat aymanukum. The prayer, the prayer, the prayer, and fear Allah regarding those who are under your authority. That was his last word. That was his will. Moments before he died, he was saying, fear Allah regarding those weak ones who are dependent under your authority. Wow. If this is not civilization, I don't know what is civilization. It's amazing. I was with the American Army on 1994, and I was with them in Hajj. As I told you before, I was accompanying hundreds of new American convert soldiers that were so happy to perform pilgrimage. And I had the honor and the privilege to be with them, sleeping, eating, going with them, maintaining their issues, their social problems. So, a question was raised. Bilal, the Ethiopian, who converted to Islam, he was the second, by the way, the second one who converted to Islam. Abu Bakr, the first converted to Islam, and the most ancient one who accompanied the Prophet ﷺ. He saw him being persecuted in the field of Mecca, the masjid, and he was tortured until he gave up his faith, which is La ilaha illallah. There is no God that ever deserves to be worshipped except Allah. Then Abu Bakr said to them, to his owners, the pagan, he said, what do you have to do with this man? Let me buy him. They said, take him. They were interested in any price he gives. They said, take him. So he freed him, he paid them and freed him. And that was a very shining point of Islam. So the second convert to Islam was a slave whom Islam freed him. Getting back to the question. So the people said to me, if Islam cares about the matter of freedom, why we found that Bilal has no narrations in your book of hadith? Why? It seems he was devalued. So I had trouble in answering this question, and I was tried to find an answer, but I found a good answer. Do you know that the Prophet ﷺ was amazed once regarding Bilal? He came to Bilal and said, Bilal, what is the most hopeful kind of worship that you do? Because I saw you in paradise, or let me say it precisely, I heard your steps, the steps of your shoes in paradise. In paradise. Bilal said, it is nothing big, but the most hopeful kind of worship I do to Allah, that whenever I lose my whenever I go to the toilet, I lose way, I take an ablution. And whenever I take ablution, I perform after it 2 units of prayer. The Prophet was amazed. Was it this that caused you to be in paradise? So Allah enabled his prophet to hear the steppings of Bilal, the slave who became free. There are many great companions, but they were not narrating much. I give that answer, and that was a good answer. A slave, Ethiopian slave, Allah orders or enables his prophet to hear his steps in paradise. How great Islam is. Not only this, one of the greatest companions of the Prophet, whose name is Abu Dharr, he had a problem with his slave. His slave maybe made a mistake. So he rebuked him with his mother and said to him, "O son of a black woman." Did America succeed in stopping that word that is always repeated on the street everywhere? Nigger? Allahu Akbar. Nigger. Civilized America failed to find a solution for this. Now, let's see what the Prophet did to Abu Dharr. That slave went to the Prophet complaining to him what Abu Dharr said to him, "O son of a black woman." The Prophet said to him, angrily, he hadn't been seen angry as much as he was at that situation. And he said to Abu Dharr, "Enough is enough, Abu Dharr. Enough is enough. You rebuked him with his mother because she is black. You are a man who is inflicted with matter of, which means you still have some characters of Jahiliyyah, ignorance. We use the word Jahiliyyah, that means the age of ignorance, before Islam came. The age of ignorance. So Abu Dharr was so sad that the Prophet said that to him, and he changed and repented after that. Anyway, the Prophet did not blame the slave, but he blamed Abu Dharr. And the Prophet said, "Whoever slapped his slave, let him free him." Narrated by Muslim, hadith number 1657. And as he was passing by, he heard a slave's agony. He'd been bit by Uqba bin Amir, whose nickname was Abu Mas'ud. So the slave was seeking help from the Prophet. As he was passing by, he saw the slave. Then he said to Abu Mas'ud, "Beware, Abu Mas'ud, that Allah is more powerful against you over your power against your slave." Abu Mas'ud said, "I turned to the back and I saw the Prophet ﷺ, and immediately I said, 'O Prophet, he is free for the sake of Allah.'" Was this enough for Abu Mas'ud? No. The Prophet said to him, "If you did not do, the fire will be scorching you, touching you." Beautiful. See those enemies of the Prophet say, "He used to be riding a camel. We don't follow a prophet who ride a camel." What's wrong with the camel? The camel is better than the pig. We call the camel the ship of the desert. So what's wrong? Is it embarrassing that the Prophet ride a camel? Why? Was the Emperor of Rome, was he driving Cadillac? GMC? They used to be riding camels and horses, so what is the problem? It's only expression of arrogance, because they want to find anything that justify their rejection to the Prophet. So let's get back to the topic. So the Prophet said, whoever hit his slave, the expiation of slapping his slave is to free him. That's the price. But he used to be very costly for his master. No more, finish. You slapped him, he's free. No slave anymore. Sahih Muslim, hadith number 1659. Another thing that shows the beauty of Islam. After the Prophet's death, the second caliph, whose name was Umar, he used to be sitting down with the servants, those who prepare food. He used not to be eating until they sit with him. He is the caliph, he's the leader. Imagine Trump saying to his servants, those who work for the food, come, I'm not going to eat until you come and eat with me. Ah, no, can't be. Not only this, but Umar made it incumbent upon those who have people who serve their food to sit with them, because it used to be an act of Jahiliyyah, ignorance, that the master should not be sitting and eating with his slaves and workers. No. It's still until nowadays, when the high people finish their food, then the workers come and continue eating after them. They eat the traces of their food. It is, I've seen it until nowadays. Until now I see it. But it was not the same with Umar. Look, it's narrated in Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 2559 and 2560. Ibn Jurayj is one of the narrators at the lifetime of the Tabi'in. Tabi'in are the followers of the companions of the Prophet. He said to Ata, if I knew that my servant has money to free himself, should I free him? Would I allow him to ransom himself? He said, Ata said to him, I do not see this matter, but it is obligatory. I don't see it, but obligatory. Why? Then he narrated to him that Sirin was one of the servants of Anas, who said to Anas, I have enough money. I want to free myself. He said, no. Then Sirin went to Umar, complaining, Anas, the server of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to him, I offered money to Anas to ransom myself from slavery to freedom. Then he refused to make the contract of freeing me, as we call it in Arabic, mukataba. Mukataba is to make a deal. Alright, so he gave him money, he's free. Umar brought the palm leaf. He used to be hitting people sometimes with it. He brought the palm leaf and he started to hit Anas. And he was reciting this ayah. فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. Then you should accept to make the deal with them as long as you know that there's good in them. He was hitting him and quoting this ayah. فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. That is in Surah An-Nisa chapter, the 4th chapter, ayah, verse number 33. So he was hitting him and quoting this ayah for him to teach him that this is what Allah said. And when Allah say that you must make the deal, then scholars said, even it is to be understood by the companions that it is a matter of obligation. When your slave said, I have money, I want to free myself, then you must free him. Even if they are still slaves, he made them equal with their masters. Let's read to you the story of Abu al-Yasar. His name is Ka'b ibn Amr. That's in Sahih Muslim. Abu al-Yasar, Ka'b ibn Amr, was seen standing with his servant, wearing the same clothes exactly like the clothes of his servant. Both are wearing the same thing exactly. So when people saw him, they said, as if they are making a sort of blame to him. May Allah guide you. Why do you wear the same clothes like your servant? He said, I swear by Allah, my sight, my hearing, and my heart was mindful to what the Prophet ﷺ said. Feed them from what you feed yourself, and clothe them from what you clothe yourselves. Then he said after that, it is better that I give him now some clothes, some worldly objects, better than him taking from my good deeds at the day of judgment. Allahu Akbar. That's so beautiful. Narrated by Muslim, hadith number 3007. 3007. Allahu Akbar. That's civilization. That's the religion of God. And the Prophet ﷺ said, not only to clothe them from what you clothe yourself, not only to feed them from what you feed yourself, but to let them sit down with you, even if they did not become free. They serve the food, they should be sitting with you. Where is that? Narrated by Bukhari, not in Sahih Bukhari though, by Bukhari in his book Al-Adab al-Mufrad, authentically. Sheikh Al-Albani, he authenticated it, that the Prophet ﷺ said, if one of your servers, khadim, maid, if one of your maids brought the food to you, then let him sit with you. At least, if he did not accept to sit with you, give him some of the food. You pour the food for him. You give him the food. Hadith number 200. Not only this, but it's in Al-Adab al-Mufrad for Al-Bukhari, hadith number 201, that Safwan ibn Umayyah brought food to Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph, and he put it, and it was handed to him by the servers of the food, the maids. Then Umar sat down. So Umar called the maids, the servants, the slaves. He called them to come and eat with him. But Umar didn't like it that they were not invited by their masters. So he said, what is the matter with you? Why don't you sit down and eat with the servants? May Allah do so and so. That means as if he's supplicating against them to Allah. May Allah do so and so against those who disdain to eat with their servants. Imagine, the second caliph, he calls the maids to come and eat with him. Not only this, but he supplicated against those who feel to be higher than the servants to eat with them. Islam, the religion of equality and fairness, had set this kind of civilization 1,500 years when he said, whoever hit his servant, the only expiation to expiate his sin is to free him. There is no forgiveness except this. I mean, you can barely find someone who hit his slave. Barely. So if everyone hits his slave and his slave complained him, that means we can barely find slaves anymore. Hadith number 537. Muawiyah ibn al-Hakam had a female maid or concubine. She used to be taking the sheep, allowing them to eat, and then to return them. One day he was counting the sheep, and he found one of them was lost. He said, I'm one of the sons of Adam. I'm a human being. I made a mistake. I slapped my concubine because one of the sheep was lost. Then he regretted it, and he went to the Prophet and told him about this. The Prophet said, call this concubine. He called her, and the Prophet said to her, where is Allah? Where is Allah? She said, He is in the height. He said, who am I? She said, you are the messenger of Allah. Then he said to her, Master, free her. She is a believer. That's the hadith. Hadith 537. So, if Islam threatened the one who slapped his servant to be in hell, and he ordered the slaves to treat their slaves as brothers. Oh, that's what he said. He said, your slaves are your brothers. Allah set them to be under your authority. So whoever has his brother under his authority, let him feed him from what he eat. Let him clothe him from what he clothe. And he should not be laying on him a kind of work that he cannot bear. If he cannot bear it, then he should be giving hand with him to help him. That's Islam. They are your brothers. Tell me about the noble, the high rank for the nobles. And the books of history, European histories, tell about those nobles. They used to be seen as if they are sinless people, high people. So if Islam threatened, intimidated the one who slapped his servant to be in hell, and he told everybody that your slaves are your brothers, and they should be wearing equally with you the same clothes you wear and eat the same food from the same food you eat, then half of the slavery problem had been solved. Not only this, but Islam set some kinds of redemption of sins to be forgiven if you freed slaves. Like what, for example? We know that there are some... If you vowed an oath in which you did not fulfill, then the forgiveness of this is to free a slave. Also, cases of death that happened by mistake. A man did not mean to kill. It happened. He was mistakenly, for example, shooting or using his spear, and it hit someone, and he died by mistake. So what is the expiation? Free a believer slave. Free slave. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَمَنْ قَتَلَ مُؤْمِنًا خَطَأً فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ. Ayah number 92. And also, if you swore by Allah that you do something and you fail, then one of the ways of expiating that sin is to free slave. You broke your oath. So the expiation of breaking your oath is to free slave. Where's this? Allah the Almighty said, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن بما عقدتم الأيمان فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة. Allah will not impose blame upon you for what is meaningless in your oath, but He will impose blame upon you for breaking deliberately your oath. So its expiation is the feeding of 10 needy people from the average of that which you feed yourselves and your families, or clothing them, or the freeing of a slave. If you broke your oath deliberately, then free a slave. See, there are many procedures, many things that always cause the freeing of the slaves. So Islam did not stop it by one time. And Allah knows best how to deal with this matter gradually. Likewise, one who says to his wife, for example, you are to me just like the back of my mother. That's an expression which means I consider you to be divorced. So Allah the Almighty, He made it clear that this is not a term of divorce. It looks like, but it's not. This is a matter of oath. So the expiation of that oath is to free a slave. فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَتَمَاسَّا ذَلِكُمْ تُوعَظُونَ بِهِ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. And those who pronounce dhihar from their wives, dhihar, that means, it's from the word dhahr, back. Regarding the term I mentioned to you before, that he says, I'm going to consider you just like the back of my mother. That means, as I am not allowed even to see the back or to touch the back of my mother, you're the same as the prohibition of seeing or touching the back of my mother. That's an expression. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solved this word that it used to be thought that this is a word of divorce. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is what you claim by your tongue. That means this is a word that is mentioned by tongue, which does not have any reality of divorce. So he said, as those who pronounce dhihar, that means this word, you are just like, to me, just like the back of my mother, from their wives, and then wish to go back on what they said, then there must be the freeing of a slave before they touch one another. Also, a person who he intercoursed with his wife at the day of Ramadan, and we know that this breaks the fast. So the Prophet said to one who had this problem, he said to him, can you free a slave? Can you free a slave? That means There are many, even in Hajj. If you made some mistakes in Hajj, free a slave, in multiple kinds of worship. Islam, when mistakes take place, then the expiation of these mistakes should be freeing slaves. So, if one hits his slave, he must free him. If one who makes some mistakes in his worship, he should be freeing a slave. If you should be feeding and clothing your slaves the same way, equally, with what you clothe yourself and feed yourself. And if you must sit down with your slaves and eat with them, or at least if they refuse themselves, then you have to give them some of the food. You hand it to them. Islam did not make difference between free and slave, except in what I'm going to tell you. Does Islam acknowledge difference between people? Yes. Don't chop it up. I'll wait until I continue my words. Yes, there is difference between this man and that man, this woman and that woman. In terms of what? In terms of God-fearing. Allah the Almighty said, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most person of honor among you, that means honored by God. The most honored person by God among you is the man who has more God-fearing than the other. This is the allowed kind of racism, I should say. Still until now, I mean, this book of the Christians is still believing that the Jews are the chosen people of God. Yeah, we believe that they were chosen, but by the message and the prophets that Allah had set among them more than any other nation. That is the preference. But they thought that God preferred them. They are chosen people of God because of their race. That's not Islam. But what is in Islam? Yes, there's preference between people. People are preferred between one another by the God-fearing and by the knowledge. Allah said, هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Are they considered equal? Those who know and those who don't? So there is difference with knowledge. There is difference by piety and God-fearing. Yes, because the Prophet said, Allah does not look, that means in consideration. Because there's nothing in our dictionary about God that there is something that God doesn't see. He's talking about consideration. The Prophet said, Allah does not look at your images, your bodies, and your colors, but He looks in consideration at your hearts and at your actions. Considerably, Allah looks at your hearts and your actions, not at your colors. So, in Islam, and even today, you never see in Islam, in the Muslim countries, I should say, someone says to the other, you nigger. It may happen. I'm not saying it's 100% zero. No, it may happen. But it is a great problem in the greatest country in the world, and that is America. The word nigger, Allah knows, maybe trillions of times, this word is being used on daily basis, if not minutes basis. We don't have this. As a matter of fact, Malcolm X, he converted to Islam in the jail. And Allah knows how many tyrant people, criminals, they had to sit side by side with the Muslims, and eventually they convert to Islam. And Malcolm X was one of them. And he went to Mecca with the agonies of racism in America. When he went to Saudi Arabia and he was mingling himself with those Muslims in Hajj, he was amazed, and he realized the great difference between the civilized society in America and the society in Hajj. Among the Muslims, they're all brothers wearing the shrouds similarly to the shrouds of the dead people. and there is no preference between one and the other. They all have to walk. They all have to practice, exercise the rituals as brothers. No difference. He enjoyed it. Then he had to get back to the United States, having these agonies. And eventually, when he realized that, and he started to fix the situation in America, he was assassinated. This is a briefing about the matter of slavery in Islam. I tried to brief it as much as I can. Yet, I have many other evidences, but I think this will be quite enough. And people sometimes, they blame me that sometimes I want to give it 10 minutes, then it becomes 1 hour with me. I apologize for this. May Allah bless you, and may Allah lighten the hearts of people so they'll be guided Islam through this essay. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.